Welcome everyone, let's kick off today's Connect session and dive into all the exciting updates and what's coming next. Our agenda for today includes the following sections. We'll begin by exploring the new accounting functionality, continue with updates on integrations, and wrap up with an overview of close management. Let's now move on to accounting. We're going to talk about a new functionality available in the accounting section called Accounting Models for Advanced Reconciliations. This feature allows for greater flexibility in the generation of journal entries based on advanced reconciliations created in the Resources and Reconciliations section. The main goal is to enable the creation of accounting models using this new capability, which is directly connected to other areas of the platform. With this evolution, we aim to help our accounting clients make the most of the integrated reconciliation capabilities. The logic is designed to be highly flexible and precise for configuring accounting models that match your organization's needs. The setup process is very straightforward. Let's take a look at how it works directly in the Symmetric app. Here I am on the main page of the Symmetric platform. Let's go to the Automate section, then to Accounting, and finally into Accounting Models. Important. Before starting, make sure you've already created an advanced reconciliation from the Resources and Reconciliations section. Now let's click on Create at the top right corner. This opens the Configure Model window. Under Type of Resource to post, you'll be able to select either Reconciliation or Advanced Reconciliation. Then, under Type of Model, you'll find several options available: Reconciled, Adjusted, Adjusted B, and Reconciled in Aggregations. There's no major complexity here. The key prerequisite is to have that advanced reconciliation already created so that it appears as an option when choosing the base reconciliation to build your accounting model. Now let's move on to the integration section. We're introducing a new type of connection: SFTP pull. The goal is to let you self-manage this connection process. With SFTP pull, you can create and customize your connection directly from each repository. This allows Symmetric to securely connect to your SFTP servers and extract files automatically. You'll find this functionality in the new Connections view, available from the updated navigation. Important note: this new connection setup works directly with repositories, a feature we released recently within the Integrations module. The process is straightforward. You just need to create a connection, give it a name, choose the connection type, and enter the minimum required data for it to work. A great benefit of this new setup is that during creation you can test the connection to verify that Symmetric is able to access your server and that the credentials you provided are valid. Once created, this connection acts as a generic or default option, but it can be further customized per repository. This means you can reuse the same connection across multiple repositories to bring in or send out different types of data as needed. On the integration customization side, the idea is that from each repository, you'll be able to define how, when, and which files should be automatically extracted from your servers, directly from the input configuration. This essentially breaks away from the black box that exists today in several integration processes, which typically rely on the support team. With this new approach, these types of connections are linked to repositories, and during customization, you'll be able to select a previously created connection. Specify the file path to be accessed. Choose the days and times, with a maximum of 2 time slots per integration, when the system should pull the files. Define the criteria for identifying which files to extract. An additional enhancement is the ability to configure historical data loads during setup. This addresses a common challenge we've seen with new clients or fresh implementations, where it's often necessary to bring in backup data from previous months to organize their processes properly within the tool. Once everything is set up, you'll also have access to several self-management actions, such as editing the configuration, e.g., updating schedules, changing the file search criteria, or modifying the access path. Manually triggering the integration, which is especially helpful during peak periods like financial close. Unlinking a connection if the repository no longer needs to receive data, allowing you to switch to a new connection if needed. So team, this process takes place on this side from the Automation section, Integrations under Connections. This menu will mainly show you an inventory of all the connections you've created. Just as a reminder, these connections currently only work for linking to repositories. Click on Create Connection. Assign a name to your connection so you can easily identify it. In the type field, you'll need to select SFTP pull. Keep in mind that the push type is also available. That's where we provide a server for you to send files to us. On the right-hand side of the pull setup screen, you'll always find general instructions to guide you through the creation process. It's important to note that if your organization has internal policies restricting server access, you must whitelist Symetrix's IP address, since that's the one we'll use to extract files from your server. In the host field, you can specify either the URL or the IP address of your server. When entering the IP address, make sure it follows the format. If you're using a URL, enter it without the HTTP// prefix and avoid ending it with a slash. This helps prevent connection issues or unexpected errors during the file extraction process. By default, the connection port is set to 22, which is the standard for this type of connection. However, if you use a different port, you can enter it without any issues. Next is the username we will use to connect and extract files. On our side, we have a generic user for this. If, due to internal policies, this user requires a password, you can enter it, though it's an optional field. At a minimum, you'll need to provide the username and a private key. For security reasons, the private key must be in PEM or PPK format. You can either paste the key's content directly into the input field or upload it as a file. If the private key requires a passphrase, there's also a dedicated field for that. Additionally, you can define the default path to the files you want us to access. If this path is left blank, we'll assume access should start at the root directory. Another important point, you can create the connection simply by completing the form and clicking Create. But for added security, we highly recommend you use the Test Connection option. This allows us to attempt a connection to your server and verify that all details are correctly configured. The connection test will immediately provide you with feedback. If the credentials were entered incorrectly or there was any issue during the setup, you'll get clear visibility into what went wrong. In this case, the connection worked successfully, so we can proceed and create it. Once created, the connection will appear in the main list view. From here, you can manage it through various actions. You can delete a connection to keep your list clean. However, note that you can only delete connections that are not currently linked to any repository. If a connection is linked to a repository as shown in this last example, the system will inform you where to go to remove the linkage first. Only then will you be allowed to delete the connection. This safeguard is in place to prevent accidental disruptions to automated processes that rely on that connection to ingest data into Symetric. You also have the ability to edit the connection. All fields can be modified except for the connection type, which is locked to preserve its structural integrity. On the right-hand side, when a connection is linked to repositories, you'll see a view like this one, showing which repositories are currently using that connection. You'll have quick access to them from here in case you want to investigate or manage a specific repository. That's everything related to creating and managing your SFTP pull connections. From the integration customization side within repositories, the process is quite simple. In this case, from the same automation section, you'll need to go to the Data Buckets menu and create a new data bucket. Creating a data bucket only requires assigning a name. Once it's created, you'll access the configuration tabs. Since we want to automate the data input into the platform, you should go to the Input Configuration tab. There, select the type of connection, which in this case is SFTP pull. Then, choose the connection you previously created. Once selected, you'll see the form fields that need to be filled out in order to personalize that integration. On the file location side, you can specify the exact path we need to connect to. You can also select the days for the integration to run. By default, the system will pre-select Monday through Friday, standard business days. If you need files to be pulled every day, you can manually update your selection. Now, regarding execution time, you'll define the hour at which the integration should run. This is the time when the system will look for new files. For example, you can set it to 7 o'clock a.m. You can also specify the time zone, which is especially useful for clients operating across different regions that need data delivered at specific local times. If you only need one execution time, just enter that. If a second one is needed, simply add it below. Note, both schedules must be set in the same time zone. When it comes to search criteria, you have three available options. First, you can filter by file format. This means we will look for files with a specific extension. Second, by keyword, which allows you to search for files that include a certain word in their name. And third, by regular expression, a more advanced option where you enter a valid regex pattern that we'll use to search for the relevant files. In my case, I'll go with the format option. As mentioned earlier, during the creation stage, you also have the possibility to enable historical file loading. This is especially useful in new implementations where you may need to bring in historical data. You'll be able to select the historical file upload option and specify a past date up to a maximum of 1 calendar year back from which we should begin retrieving files. Once you're ready, click Save. That connection we created earlier, configured with the integration settings, can be edited at any time. From here, you'll be able to edit the integration, which takes you back to the pre-filled form, trigger a manual execution, and unlink the integration. These actions are always available in the system. The only exception is that if your user role doesn't have the necessary permissions, you won't be able to perform them. Once the execution runs, what happens next is that the file manager in the data bucket will begin to list all the files that were found. Just keep in mind that the entry status and file upload visibility are shown directly in the data bucket. And once the data bucket is linked to a source, you'll also see an output status that changes depending on how the file was processed. One last clarification, from the Connections menu, you'll still have quick access to the legacy SFTP uploads available in the previous version of the reconciler. Eventually, we will absorb and migrate those connections into the new structure. But in the meantime, both options will remain available. This means you can continue using the new connections from the current list view linked directly to repositories. Maintain any existing FTP processes already set up internally, with the difference being that those older connections still point directly to data sources rather than repositories. This ensures compatibility while the transition is underway. Let's move on to our next section, Close Management. We wanted to bring Close Management back into focus because it's a module with great potential. It's highly intuitive and doesn't require guided configuration, rather, it's designed for self-configuration and easy implementation. It adds significant value to the month-end closing processes, and we've recently released some features that, while already introduced, we now want to showcase in sequence to highlight the full value of the module. What are the main characteristics and benefits? Within the closing process, Close Management lets you centralize a hub of information that complements and enriches your account certifications and balances. It provides a single source of truth for all your closing data, helping to ensure compliance, improve traceability, and facilitate audits, all of which significantly enhance the efficiency of the teams involved in financial close activities. The first step within the module is, of course, setting up the chart of accounts. It's crucial to export your chart of accounts from your ERP or accounting source and adapt it to the template we provide within the module. As you'll see shortly, this process is very straightforward. It's literally a copy-paste task. Within this step, you'll also define who is responsible for preparing the information. These roles don't necessarily have to be the same for all accounts, they can vary by account groups or even by specific account numbers. You'll also assign backups and certifiers for each closing balance. The process is highly intuitive, and it significantly simplifies internal controls, whether they're implemented at an aggregated, segmented, or general level depending on how your team chooses to assign responsibilities. The next step is, of course, tied to accounting periods. By nature, the financial close is linked to months or specific periods, and within this section, users can create and manage those periods. This is another key benefit. You can open, close, and reopen periods as needed. Each action will trigger alerts and preserve full traceability of all changes made. Every period you create and manage in the platform will be recorded, allowing for greater control and transparency throughout the closing process. Additionally, we now display and facilitate an executive summary by period, as well as by tag types that you can use to filter the status of your accounting operations or account certifications. For example, if you want to see how many accounts still need to be certified because they present differences, you'll be able to check that here. You can also see how many are in the certification process, meaning the preparer has submitted them and they are now pending approval by the assigned certifier. All this information is consolidated in the executive summary, making it easier to track and follow up on close activities. Here we're referring to the most recent features launched, particularly the auto certification rules. There are 3 in total, and this is the first one. During the rush of month-end close processes, teams often spend a significant amount of time analyzing accounts that might not have a major volume or transactional impact. Auto certification rules allow you to define conditions under which specific accounts can be automatically certified. For example, you might decide that petty cash accounts can be auto-certified if they show no monthly variation greater than $10,000. These rules are fully customizable and configurable by the user within the module, which adds a lot more flexibility and speed to the monthly close certification process. There are a few predefined parameters available to help you create auto-certification rules. One of them is that you can group by legal entity. For example, if you have 4 or 5 legal entities, you can create a specific rule for entity A, B, C, or D. Additionally, you can define up to 2 levels of grouping, which we'll see in the upcoming example. You can also set conditions such as absolute value thresholds. For instance, between 2 periods, say April versus May, you can establish that any balance variation greater than $10,000 or less than a certain amount should not be auto-certified. You can enable or disable these rules at any time, giving you a high degree of flexibility in how you manage account certification. Another key feature I mentioned is account owners. Not always a single person is responsible for certifying all closing balances for a given period. In many cases, sub-teams or different individuals handle specific segments. Some may be in charge of current assets, while others focus on payroll and so on. This functionality allows you to segregate responsibilities and assign both primary owners and backups for each account group. Even better, you decide how to group the accounts, giving you full flexibility to tailor the setup to your internal structure. So here we show how to create groups of accounts. The platform will automatically display all the accounts the user has previously uploaded in the chart of accounts, using the template shown in the previous video. From there, the user can define how they want to group the accounts, by legal entity, and additionally by currency, or even by specific account numbers. They can also define the certification frequency, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. These are the available options. Finally, they can give the group a name and add a custom description as needed. It's important to emphasize what Close Management does and doesn't do. As mentioned earlier, our Close Management tool offers a solution to formalize and monitor the certification of balances during the financial close periods. It allows you to assign owners to accounts or groups of accounts, and to apply auto-certification rules. It helps maintain traceability and facilitates audit processes on account balances and specific close periods. These are all critical activities during close periods that typically require significant time and effort from accounting teams. Our tool helps organize and streamline the certification process by also enabling users to attach justifications and supporting documentation from the Resources and Reconciliations module, strengthening the rationale behind certified balances. However, it's also important to clarify what Close Management is not, at least for now. It does not replace your ERP systems. It does not independently perform financial analysis, e.g., vertical or horizontal analysis of figures across periods. It does not fully automate the entire financial close process. It is not a task manager for closing activities. That said, while our platform allows users to add comments and notes during the balance certification process, such as explaining a $200,000 variance in a petty cash account for a specific cost center in May, that doesn't mean the tool generates follow-up tasks or alerts. We're not a task management system. However, when used in combination with other symmetric functionalities, it can support and streamline broader close processes. But again, that's not the core focus of Close Management today. Lastly, remember that Close Management is currently an add-on. If you'd like to explore it, please reach out to your CSM so we can enable it for you. Now let's go into the platform and see how to apply everything we just reviewed. It's important to select the appropriate workspace. You can either use an existing one within your general environment or create a separate workspace specifically for Close Management. In this case, I created a test workspace, and we'll start with the first step, uploading the balance sheet, which is the entry point. To do that, go to the Automate section, then into Accounting, and click on GL Account Configuration. Within account configuration, you'll find the three functionalities we discussed: auto certification rules, groups of accounts, and account owners. From any of these sections, you can upload your balance and account details. You'll see a message with a link, in blue, where you can download our account template. As mentioned earlier, the first thing you'll do is download the template and simply copy and paste your balance sheet accounts into it. You'll need to input your accounts, associated entities, account names, currency types, whether or not the account requires certification, select No if it's part of the balance but won't be included in the certification process. The primary user responsible for preparing the balances. You can add as many different preparers as needed. It doesn't have to be the same user for all accounts. You can also assign backups, though it's optional and they can be left blank, as in my example. Then, define your preparer roles, certifiers, and backup certifiers. We allow up to 5 levels of account grouping, though you don't need to complete all 5. It's up to you how deep you want to go. In this example, we went up to Group 2. 1. First level, by nature of accounts. 2. Second level, current and non-current assets. Important things to keep in mind. 1. Currency format and certification field. Make sure to keep them exactly as they appear in the template. For example, whether a line item requires certification or not should be indicated just as shown in the original file. 2. Users assigned as primary preparers or certifiers or backups must already be registered in Symmetric and have the appropriate permissions in the platform. 3. Avoid special characters that may cause issues when uploading the file. Since I already have a completed example, the next step is very straightforward. Simply select the file and upload it. If you've followed the format correctly, you should see no errors. In this case, I'm being shown a warning that some of the certifiers or preparers are not registered in Symmetric. This is exactly what you'll see if any users haven't been added yet. Now I'll switch to an example that loads correctly. Once the file is uploaded successfully, you'll see your full chart of accounts exactly as defined in the template. You'll be able to filter by whether the account requires certification, assign preparers or certifiers, any of the 5 grouping levels you defined. You can also remove accounts if something changes from one period to another. Now let's move on to creating account groups. As shown in my example, I already have a few groups created, but let me walk you through the process. 1. Select accounts by legal entity. For instance, I'll filter to show only accounts from Symmetric Argentina. 2. Keep in mind, accounts already assigned to a group cannot be reused in another group. 3. Filter by account nature or classification. 4. Name your group. Add a description if you want and define the certification frequency, monthly in this case. 5. Save it. You'll then see the number and type of accounts assigned to each group, the selected frequency, the user who created the group, a full activity log for audit control. You can view details, delete groups if needed, and also manage your auto certification rules. Regarding auto certification rules, you can create them by legal entity or any of the grouping levels defined in the template. For example, I'll create a rule for group level 1 targeting all my cost accounts. These options will only appear if you've already uploaded and configured your chart of accounts. Let me know if you want this formatted as slides or documentation. I'm going to configure the rule so that accounts are auto-certified if no changes greater than $10,000 USD are detected compared to the previous period. It's very important to enable the rule if you upload your balances but the rule isn't active. The accounts won't be auto-certified. I also want accounts to be auto-certified if the absolute difference during the period is below a certain threshold, let's say $5,000. You can enable and create that rule as well. Once that's done, we've fully automated and configured our financial close process just by uploading the balance and applying your control and review criteria. Now let's go into Operate. Under Accounting Controls, we'll manage the accounting dashboards. Control Dashboards. Here, you'll be able to monitor everything from the account upload, responsible users, and more. Accounting periods. This is where it gets important. We've already uploaded our balance, now we'll create the accounting period. For example, I'll open the March 2025 period. For each period, you'll need to upload the balance data. This is the second key milestone in the process to run your period-end activities. You'll find a preset balance upload template you'll need to use. Let's open it. What's important here? You'll copy and paste your trial balance export, VP, into this template. The format is very similar to the one used when uploading your chart of accounts. Ensure no values have more than 5 decimal places. If needed, round or aggregate the data to simplify. Once your trial balance is ready, upload it into the system. Let's assume I've already completed the process with a sample file. Now I'm going to review my controls. For example, I had a group called General Cash. This group was automatically certified because I had previously configured the rule to auto-certify if the difference was below $10,000 USD. So, I ran the certification process and the system now shows that 3 out of 35 accounts are still pending certification. I can see here that the certifier for this group is Fernando Medina. Inside the platform. I can attach all the supporting documentation, a screenshot of my reconciliations, or even pull a reconciliation group directly from the reconciliation module to justify the balance. Here I can also add any notes that I or my team consider relevant to maintain a clear audit trail of the process. And that's a wrap. We hope this walkthrough helped you better understand how to take full advantage of Cimetrix capabilities for close management. If you have any questions or would like to start using these features, don't hesitate to reach out to your customer success manager. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next session.